to their screams.
Greetings, ghouls and creeps, and welcome to Listen to Their Screams, a horror podcast. I am one of your hosts, Dave. I'm joined as always by Ike. Ike, how are you?
I only got one question for you. What's your
What's that?
favorite scary movie?
Well, we'll discuss that in a bit. Not what my favorite scary movie is, but what it's not. Yeah, we're going to have a fun discussion today because we had a little pre-discussion on this, and this is going to be one of those reviews where Ike and I don't agree. We don't see eye to eye, so that should make some fun conversation because we haven't got that yet a lot yet. Typically, most of our reviews we're pretty much on the same level, so this will be interesting, be fun, new territory. Brace yourselves, guys. This might be the last episode. We might explode right here. No, I'm just joking. Just joking. That's not going to happen because they're all opinions. So who cares? But thank you for joining us again this week. Again, we are going to review. We talked all that. I didn't even say what we were going to review today. We are, of course, reviewing what the entire world is talking about, and that is Scream 6, which is out in theaters and tearing it up right now. The #1 movie over the weekend. And we're going to discuss that. We had our big Scream franchise review and discussion last week, and we're talking the new Scream movie this week. Make sure that you don't miss an episode of us, and by doing that, all you got to do is hit subscribe. Whatever you're listening to us, make sure you subscribe, and then you can also make sure you follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Letterboxd, and we are now on the Slasher app. We're very new there. I have no clue what we're doing, but we're there. All you got to do is on all those platforms, look up Listen to Screams. That is Listen, the number 2, and Screams. As always, we need to throw out two quick facts here. Special thanks to our wives, Kayla and Monica, for all their help and support. And we will issue a spoiler warning. It'll come up again later. We'll mention it again later right before our review. But I want to be 100% clear. If you have not seen Scream 6 yet, don't listen to our review because we're going to blow the hell out of it. This is spoiler rich today. We're talking everything. Nothing's going to be held back. We're going to talk about whatever we want related to the movie. So if you haven't seen it, you may not want to listen to a review unless you just don't care. So you have been warned. So Ike, besides seeing Scream 6 this week, did you do anything else? Watch anything else? What's been up with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, I'll be real with you. I've not watched anything else. However, I have played a few horror games.
Right.
So, fun fact, obviously we don't talk a whole lot about video games on here, but Resident Evil 4 Remake, which is a remake of one of my favorite Resident Evil games of all time, is actually coming out. It's dropping later this month. So, in preparation for that, I have been replaying the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remake. I'm getting ready to play the original Resident Evil 4. And for those people who are interested, they actually dropped a demo of Resident Evil 4. It's called the Chainsaw Demo. They dropped that on, I believe, both Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. It may not still be available, but if it is, I'd recommend downloading it if you're interested, or if you want to get a taste of the game. It was pretty awesome.
All right. Well, let's see then. Not much else for you watching it. About the only thing I have watched is I'm one episode away from completing the Scream TV series. I had never watched that.
Really?
And I never did. I don't know why. I just never took the time and did it. And with all the recent Scream craze, I decided to dive in, and I'm actually have enjoyed it a lot more than I thought. I'm in the 3rd season now, which I don't know. I don't like the 3rd season quite as much because I kind of got invested in the first 2 seasons and the characters in that.
Yeah.
And I know it's not directly related to the movies, especially the first 2 seasons, but I still got pretty invested in it. So, but it's been fun. I've enjoyed watching it, and I did hear, like, in the first 2 seasons, the mask and everything. They kept talking about the Brandon James mask and Brandon James. I have heard, and of course I didn't notice it, in my viewing, but I did hear in the subway scene in Scream 6 that somewhere there someone was wearing one of the Brandon James masks as kind of a tip of the hat to the TV series. So that's pretty cool if that's true. So, but before, I'll talk about it. But I have a story related to my viewing of Scream 6 that is not directly related to the movie itself, but we'll talk about that when when we get to review time. Ike, on Twitter, though, we are continuing on our Slash Madness tourney. We had our second round matches. Let's just go through them real quick. Won't discuss them too much. I don't think there are many surprises. We're really going to dive into the discussion on the tournament next week because we're down to the final four.
Yep.
And that's where it's really going to get down to the nitty gritty. But in the second round matches, Michael Myers defeated Pinhead. Michael Myers got 100% of the votes. I don't think that's a big surprise. Ghostface defeated Leatherface. Ghostface was 70% of the votes. Jason Voorhees defeated Art the Clown. He had 75% of the votes. And Freddy Krueger defeated Chucky. And Freddy had 90% of the votes. I thought that might be a little closer, but alas, it was not. So that brings down to our semifinal matches, which will be released on the day this episode is released, on Thursday, March 16th. And that makes the final four and the final two matchups, semifinal matchups, are Michael Myers versus Ghostface and Jason Voorhees versus Freddy Krueger, which, we saw that in a movie. But
we did.
yeah. So, again, no surprises there. I think that final four, it's just not surprising to me. I think that's four of the most iconic killers in horror movies. So I at least on my part, I don't see any surprises in it being those four.
No, absolutely. I'm pretty sure when we talked about this last week, that was pretty much the guesses that we kind of made, or the assumptions we kind of made. I am obviously sad about Art the Clown, but I think I'll live.
Yeah, maybe march on. But now it gets intriguing when you get down to these four and what happens here, and then going on to the final. So we will discuss these two matchups a little more next week once the voting's done, and we'll talk our views on it. I don't want to persuade anybody if anybody puts that much stock in what we say. I don't know if they do or not, but one thing that I do want to parlay onto the world is our game, the top three.
Top three.
And on this episode, keeping in the theme of the Scream franchise, we are going to talk about our top three favorite kills in Scream movies. Ike, man, this was tough. Yep. This was all the kills, not all the kills, but there's a good majority of the kills that are fun, that are impactful, that are wild. I don't know. Okay, here's my deal. I say it's tough. Two of them I pretty much knew right off the bat. There's two that I really, really, I like. Coming up with my third one, I literally I went through a rotating cast. Was this one. No, it's going to be this one. No, it's this one. Man, and I don't even know, I don't even know if I'm 100% sold on the one I settled on. But I think it's, I will say my number three is probably a unique choice that I don't know if a lot of people would choose. But Ike, you got your list? You ready to talk about this?
I think I'm as ready as I will ever be to speak on my favorite kills.
All right. Well, I'll start because my number three, I think might be unique. I don't know if a lot of people would pick this one, but I think it's a very fun kill. I thought it was clever. The build into it, I thought it was kind of unique. It is from 2000, from Scream 3. It is the kill of Sarah Darling, who is the character that was played by Jenny McCarthy. I very much enjoyed this kill because I love the part. I think she's on the phone or she's walking through or whatever it is. I love how he steps out of the costumes.
Yes.
There's those racks of the costumes and how the head comes to the side, then the foot comes. That to me was so cool. It was just the way they shot it looked great. And then her trying to race around and fight him off and tipping stuff over, picking up prop weapons and trying to hit him, and it, of course, nothing happening. And then finally going through that glass and that door. It was pretty wild. I don't know. It was something about that. I'm gonna say I enjoy Scream 3, but not saying it's one of my overall top favorites of all time. That I jump to mind. But I thought, I don't know. I enjoy this kill, and I thought it was kind of unique and kind of fun. So, Ike, what do you think of this kill?
Yeah, no, absolutely. First and foremost, Jenny McCarthy getting killed. It's always a good time. I can. But no, absolutely. I will say, while Scream 3 is one of my least favorite of the Scream films, I will say that the kills in this film, obviously, they honestly are probably one of the most elevated storytelling kills in pretty much any of the movies. Yeah. Because the whole concept of Scream 3 is you have, this guy or person who we don't know yet, obviously. Well, we know, obviously, between me and you, it's Roman, the director. But anyway,
Oh, yeah.
just in case you've never watched that movie
No.
from 20 years ago.
Yeah, we issue the spoiler warning. We're okay.
Right. But basically what I'm getting to is that, he's basically writing a movie. He's rewriting the movie, and he's killing people according to his rewrite of the movie, which is kind of an interesting plot point. And so, with that, obviously this kill specifically, it's one of the, I would say, first big ones of the film other than Cotton, and it really sets the mood, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But like I said, obviously, Jenny McCarthy getting murdered, always a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, she fits that stereotypical role of the,
Right. The blonde.
the blonde, attractive woman that, whatever, your typical, some of your cliches in horror movies, but again, it was just, I don't know, something about it was just, it's, like I said, it might just be that the part of the beginning with the rack and the stepping out of the cars. I always thought that was so cool looking and kind of clever. So, but let's march on. Ike, what is your number 3 favorite kill in a Scream movie?
So my number 3, and then this one was kind of hard because I wanted to put this one higher. But the scene in Scream 5 where they actually kill Dewey. It's super sad. It's super tumultuous. And like, it has this weird level of respect from the killer, because the killer says, it's been an honor.
Yeah.
And obviously and here's the thing, the thing that kills me about this is like Dewey was prepared. Dewey was about to put a one in the head to finally put this person down, and he hesitated. He hesitated like he's always hesitated, and it just happened that this time they weren't going to let him walk away. So it's like, it's sad, it's heart-wrenching, it is brutal. I mean, not just one stab, but 2 stabs, front and back, right up the spine, right up the organs, and it's like, obviously he's not walking away from that. And I think the finality of that kill and just the absolute brutality, it makes it such a good kill, but also a very impactful kill for sure.
Yeah. Well, here's spoiler. It is one of my 2 remaining. And man, so I'll talk about it now. It is, man, it's such an impactful, like you said, impactful kill. And it meant so much, right? Because Dewey had survived everything, right? He had been stabbed and everything else so many times through the movies. And when it first starts to happen, of course, your initial reaction is, oh, it's Dewey, right? He'll recover, he'll be fine. And then you see how far the killer goes, and the slicing and the bringing the knife up, and you're like, yeah, that's not it. It's it. That's Dewey's done. And then it's wild, because it's like, it's one of those moments in these films that it hits you harder when you think about it later.
Yeah.
Right. And you realize that, holy crap, Dewey, who's been a fixture of this franchise, it's officially done, right? Unless they do some kind of flashback or whatever else, he's not going to be in the next one. That's it. He's done. And so it's wild, because just on impact alone, it's outside of of Sidney getting killed, I don't know if that there would be a character that would have more impact on the franchise than Dewey. So it's pretty crazy. So let's move on to our number 2s. My number 2, this is going to give away everything, because I just said that the Dewey was one of my 2. So, but my number 2 is the original kill of Casey Becker from the first movie in the opening scene, of course, played by Drew Barrymore. So, of course, I mean, this scene is, I don't know, it's perfect. There's everything, it's the only thing, and it is impactful, right? Because it's Drew Barrymore. And it's because literally, again, we talked about this before with other movies. You have to put yourself in the mindset and the context of the time, because Drew Barrymore was the big star of this movie coming into it. You didn't have the concept of what Scream was, and the surprise killers and the bait and switches and the different things that the different tricks they've done. So when you start watching this movie and you see Drew Barrymore, you think, okay, there's Drew, right? There's the big star of the movie. She's got to be this important character, and then she gets killed before the opening sequence, and you're like, holy crap! And it really kind of puts you on your heels of, what is this movie and what is it doing? And I think we talked about this when we talked in our last episode about the opening scenes, but my favorite part of this one is how the mom is on the phone and hears her as she's dying.
Yep.
You know, she's trying to call 911. That, man, that to me is just, I think it's great. I think it's a great piece of film. Well written, of course, you know, well acted. It was brutal, you know, especially they come out and she's hanging from the tree and everything else. It's iconic. I mean, this thing set the stage for this entire franchise. And in one scene, before the opening, you know, card comes, you literally are, man, you just know, hey, this is something, this is a little different, right? They're a little bit of a twist on horror here. So yeah, that's my number 2, the Casey Becker kill from the original movie. Ike, do you want to talk about this one, or do we need to move on because it's one of yours?
So it's not one of mine. So
All right.
I'll briefly touch on it, and then I'll jump in this because I mean, what more can you say? It's literally the first kill in the first Scream movie. I mean, it not only is it a paramount moment in cinema, it is one of the biggest plot twists of the 90s. And not to mention, Drew Barrymore sold that like a mother. Like, oh my good Lord. I mean, I love Drew Barrymore. Drew Barrymore is such a great actress. And I cannot say it enough that I wish she did more horror films. Because her as Casey Becker in Scream is probably one of my favorite characters, like, that you never get. You only see her for like 5 minutes, but you get invested. She's so emotional. And then, like you said, she gets brutally murdered, and her parents have to like listen to her being brutally murdered. So, like you said, fantastic kill. It didn't make my list just because some of these other ones, I don't know, I like them just a little bit more, but it is very good.
All right. Well, then let's roll on. Ike, what is your number 2 then?
Absolutely. So, believe it or not, my number 2 is the Tatum kill in Scream 1. And there's kind of an interesting reason why. Partly because the Tatum kill, it's sort of a personification of like the stupid teenager, you know what I mean? And it's supposed to kind of make fun of other horror movies.
Yeah.
You know, in other horror movies, the teenager, they're trying to run away and they slip and fall. The teenager's trying to run away and they go into, you know, the room that says murder, 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 death, death. So Tatum's death is definitely a nod to some of like those silly kill, like death scenes in other movies. But also it does have its own level of brutality. And a lot of people who've watched these films do think that Stu was the one that killed Tatum. So there's a lot of, you know, I would say a little bit of an extra little twist there because truthfully, you don't know who killed Tatum.
Yeah.
You can posture and you can guess, but one of the best things about the first movie is they don't really say who killed who. But absolutely, you know, her getting crushed to death by the, you know, the raising door, the garage door, that's the word. It's interesting, it's unique, but also it has a lot of really interesting implications for who killed her.
Yeah, this kill was actually on my short list for the number 3 spot. When I was, you know, filtering through, it was one of my considered, and almost made my list. Yeah, it is. It's a very well done scene because I love the taunting and teasing of Ghostface in this one, right? He, you know, he kind of, you know, brutalizes her a little bit, and as she's crawling, she opens the door and she's crawling, trying to get out, and he's standing there just waiting until she gets there, and then puts. Now, I don't know. Again, there's a leap here where you have to really, because I don't know that a garage door typically, at least in my experience and in my mind, if a garage door comes down and hits an object, it typically is got a mechanism that causes it to reverse.
Right.
And go back up. But okay, whatever. We'll overlook that. But
we'll suspend belief, and you know Tatum's parents are just going to sue the garage door company. It's fine.
Yeah. But it is. I like that taunting and teasing of Ghostface in the scene, right, where he kind of stands there and watches her crawl away, and then the door and everything. Yeah, it is. It is a very good scene. You know, Rose McGowan does a great job in it, and like I said, it was one of the kills that I strongly considered for my number 3 spot as well. And again, the first movie, man, is so damn good. It's virtually perfect. I mean, I don't know that there's anything I would change about the first Scream film. It is such a good film, and there's so many great kills in it. But then there's no surprises what we said earlier. If we move on to the number ones, that my number 1 is from Scream 2022. It is the death of Dewey Riley. I just had to give it a nod because, man, it's so impactful for me, right? I love Dewey. I love that character in these things, and him finally getting offed was just impactful, you know, for the franchise. So, but we already discussed that earlier as it was one of your choices. and we talked about that. So let's move on. Ike, what is your number one favorite kill in a Scream film?
Absolutely. So this one, honestly, I it's one of those things where this kill was not, anything really that special. It was just like almost just senseless, and it was also creative in a way. The death of Phil in the opening scene of Scream 2.
Another one that I consider for my
Yep.
number 3 because I love my favorite opening of the Scream in the Scream is the one in Scream 2. I love this kill.
I mean, first and foremost, he thinks that like something like there's like I don't know, like does he? I can't remember if is it the sound of like a little kid that's in the other,
No,
or is it?
I think he thinks there's a couple over there, kind of
Oh
messing
yeah,
around.
that's right. I said I couldn't remember if that was a scene where it was like a sound of a kid or if it was like the couple, but he like kind of like leans in like he's gonna
Yeah,
listen.
he's like giggling. He's like, oh, he's like, oh, yeah, because he thinks he's
That's
hearing
right.
something, and yeah,
And
he puts his ear
then
right up to the stall.
just boom, just knife through the stall right into his ear. And it's just like thinking about that, it's like that would be absolutely horrible. I mean, that's probably one of the most painful places to get stabbed, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not only just in the head, but in the eardrum. And like, so I just think about how painful that would be. And like, and it's really weird because it's like the opening kill, right? It's like the first kill of the movie.
Yeah.
And you have these people who are like just using the bathroom, just acting like they don't obviously know that anything's happening. And yeah, it's just, oh man, it's in my opinion, it's one of those more like surprising kills because you don't really anticipate that to happen. And
Yeah,
then
not
it's
at
just
all.
like, boom. And it's super senseless. This person really has no connection really no connection at all to Sydney. They don't know her.
Well,
They
they are students, they say.
right, they are
They do drop their students, so I mean that's it. I mean, there's whatever. There's not much more there, but
right, because like in the other movies, you think Casey Becker, she's the first kill. The reason she's killed is because her and Stu
Yep.
were an item.
Yep.
In Scream 3, the first person killed is Cotton Weary and his wife. Scream 4, the opening kill is a friend of the main villain. Scream 5, it's Jen Ortega. Scream 6, you get where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
So all of these films have a very purposeful and meaningful kill, and like he just wasn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It was just senseless, and I feel like that really added to the brutality of Scream 2.
Yeah, I agree, and I think again we talked about this with the opening last. This is my favorite opening.
Right.
That is very close with the first one, but I love this theater. It's something just so great about it. And then the Jada Pinkett Smith in the theater, her kill right after this one is great too. And but it's to me, I think I always got the feeling that the death of those two, number one, I think it's a little bit of a poke at the that black characters in horror movies tend to die.
Yep.
And like that. There's some of that. And then I think there's also the ode to the that it's at a theater and it's in the movie, and it's the they're playing on that leading out of the first movie into the second movie, the blame the movies for the behavior, and but it's I don't know, I like it because it's so caught up in the theater and what's going on and this chaos and this a fun chaos, right? All these people excited to see this movie, and then there's these kills that that people don't notice because of everything else that's going on. I think it's very cleverly done, very, very well acted. And again, I don't know, there's something the energy of the scene or something I just love, but I do love that bathroom stall kill. It's one of my favorites as well, and one of them that I consider for my number 3 as well. So great list. I feel it's a very good list because I feel like our 6, well, it's actually 5 because we had one in common.
Right.
That our 5, I mean, I think is if I was putting a top 5, that probably would have been my 5 in some order. I think that's if I would have added those other 2 that you had to my list because those are the ones I was considering. I will say again, a spoiler on the new movie. I will say I did give a little bit of thought to the ladder kill in the new movie because I really did enjoy that one too. I thought that was very cleverly done and pretty sadistic. But we'll talk more about that later. So, but let's catch our breath. Give another spoiler warning in the ad there, and I will come back. We're going to talk news and upcoming releases.
Remember, in the course of discussing movies, the host will spoil plots. You've been warned.
All All right, and moving on to a little bit of news before we get into the review. We have some toys and merch to talk about. House of a Thousand Corpses 20th anniversary Little Big Head 3-pack. There's a pre-order going on that will contain Captain Spaulding, Baby, Otis for a whopping $69.99, available to you at BigBadToysR.com.
I'll tell you this, man. We've talked about Rob Zombie. I'm not like a huge proponent of his movies. I love Captain Spaulding though. Yeah. I would love to have this Captain Spaulding big head, but I don't want Baby or Otis. I don't want a 3-pack of this. I wish you could buy these individually because I've seen these figures. They look pretty cool, but I don't even want Captain Spaulding. So.
Well, good news for you then, because
I know it. I'm excited about the next one.
Because NECA Toonie Terriers Series 8 will feature Vampira, Svengoolie, and none other than Captain Spaulding, and that'll come out in August of this year. So you got your wish.
That's a good series. That's a good series. They look great. I love it. I love the Svengoolie, and I love it. Let's get those horror hosts in there. Well, and Vampira as well. That's a good trio.
Oh Lord, actually, I want to start collecting some of these, but
they're great. I love them. I've got several of them, and I'm always getting new ones. But then they're all great. There's something about these great characters, but I like that cartoon take on them. It's classic. So cool. I've got my favorite of them so far. I do have the Halloween 3-pack with the 3 little. It's got the 3 kids, for trick or treating and the 3 masks. Oh, it's so great, so great.
See, man, I need to start saving some money so I can get some of those. But wish I had that money. No kidding. So key birthdays. We have February 21st. Laura, was that February or supposed to be March 21st?
March 21st, yes.
Way to go, whoever wrote this script. Oh my God. No,
that's our researchers that we gave thanks to earlier.
Oh my God, we're withdrawing my thanks. Withdrawing my thanks. No, I kid. So key birthdays for March. March 21st is Laura Allen, known for the Clown and the 4400. Actually, I don't think I recognize this person. Do you want to speak?
No. I don't know much about her. I mean, I kind of know who she is a little bit. I've never seen the Clown, never seen the 4400, but she's a pretty successful actress right now. So.
Right on. I know Clown. That's an Eli Roth movie, so I'll have to check that out sometime. But moving on, anniversary release dates. We have again March 21st. Weirdly enough, we have Rebecca 1940, which was released and directed by Alfred Hitchcock. Wow, starring Joan Fontaine and Laurence Olivier. So that's really exciting. I've never seen that one though.
Yeah. No, I don't know if I've ever seen it, but maybe. I don't know. I've seen a lot of Hitchcock. I do enjoy Hitchcock. One of the early masters of the craft, and you got Joan Fontaine and Laurence Olivier, and that's some 2 big actors at their time. So
absolutely. All right. So moving all right along to a little bit of news. We only have 2 little things to talk about. This is actually
both are exciting to me.
Yeah, they're both are pretty exciting, I'd say. We have a Guillermo del Toro project in the works, and not only is it a Guillermo del Toro project, it is a new take on Frankenstein. He said he is looking at Andrew Garfield, Oscar Isaacs, and Mia Goth to star, which of course, all of those are fantastic choices of actors and actresses, so I'm not going to say anything. But do you want to talk about that a little bit?
This makes me so happy because Del Toro, I can only imagine, right, that he's really gonna stick to the novel and the source material pretty well. Right. So I'm excited that we'll get that kind of take. These actors, I love them all. I can only imagine that Andrew Garfield's got to be looked at to play Dr. Frankenstein. I don't know what else you do with him. I mean, and that, oh my God, that's great. It's perfect. And Mia Goth, I'm assuming will play Mary Shelley, the author, because she's in some bits, but which will lead, if they go deep enough into it, that would mean she would probably translate over to play the bride, which I could 100% see and makes me very excited. I'm all excited about any kind of new project related to Frankenstein. So, Del Toro doing it, bring it on.
Absolutely. I love Guillermo del Toro. And then the other little piece of information that's kind of, I would say, hot off the press. Smile 2, it's in the works. At least it's known to potentially be coming out in the near-ish future in the next year or two. So that's exciting. I know we both liked Smile quite a bit.
Yeah, they said that it's, from what I read, it's a priority at Paramount, right? That they put it out there that, hey, let's push. This needs to be done. We want the follow up. So that is good. I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely. So then one upcoming release and one recent release. We have an upcoming release which is in theaters now, actually, as we speak. It's called 65. It's about an astronaut that crash lands on a mysterious planet only to discover he's not alone, starring none other than Adam Driver. In addition to that, we also have Cocaine Bear, which we reviewed a couple of weeks ago, and it's now available on video on demand. Speaking of 65, I was watching the trailer for that the other day because it was actually before the Scream movie we went and watched. And I'm just guessing from this trailer, I'm thinking that it's Adam Driver lands on like prehistoric Earth, and like he's supposed to be like Adam and like the other kids. Like it's kind of weird, but the kid's supposed to be like Eve or something. I don't know.
Oh, and okay.
That's what I'm guessing, is that they're supposed to be like the first humans or some shit. I don't know. That's my guess.
Well, we'll see. I do like Adam Driver, right? I enjoy him. I've always enjoyed his work, so I will. Yeah, I mean, I'll give it a watch. I don't know if it's something that I will make a trek to the theater to see, but we'll wait. We'll wait for streaming or video on demand on that one.
That's right.
But it sounds like a fun movie, though.
Yep, I'll give it a try. I like those kind of science fiction-y movies that have dinosaurs in them.
Science fiction to me, it's very much like horror with me. I love it, right? And even bad, cheesy stuff is enjoyable to me. So I like it. So.
All right. Well, I think that's pretty much all we have for news and related media today. So let's go ahead and give a quick pause. Take a little water break. Go use the bathroom. Take a pause. Do whatever you guys need to do. And when we come back, we'll have a review for Scream.
Listen to Their Screams is now a Fangoria collaborator. Get 20% off your order at shop.fangoria.com by using the promo code LISTEN2SCREAMS at checkout. That is listen, the number 2, and screams. Or you can click the link in the show notes.
Okay, and welcome back. We are listening to Their Screams, and we are about to talk about the hottest movie in the land right now, Scream 6, right? That's love it or hate it or whatever. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's seeing it. It was the number one movie in its opening weekend. But a little background. It's in theaters now. It is the 6th installment of the franchise that started in 1996. There will be a 7th installment already on the books. They're saying they're going to dive in and get to work on that very, very soon. The story was by Kevin Williamson, but he did not actually write the script. He just kind of came up with some of the general idea of it. It was directed by Matt Benatelli-Open. Returning actors: Melissa Barrera, Jasmine Savoy Brown, Mason Gooding, Jenna Ortega, Hayden Panettiere, and Courtney Cox. New to the series: Jack Champion, Henry Cesarno, Liana Labarta. I don't do well with these names. Good God. Dermot Mulroney, Devin Nakota. I get rolling and I get tripping over my consonants and vowels. Tony Revolori, Josh Segarra, and Samara Weaving. Like I said, on the opening weekend, it did $44.5 million, good for the number one spot. I don't think that's any surprise. It was the biggest opening weekend of any Scream movie yet, so that's exciting. Again, we talk about how big horror is right now, how big 2022 was, and here we are again, another weekend with a horror movie on top of the charts. That's so exciting.
Absolutely.
And this is something that the survivors of the Ghostface killings leave Woodsboro behind and start a fresh chapter in New York City. Excuse me. Although Courtney Cox and Roger Jackson, who played Gale Weathers and did the voice of Ghostface, are the only actors who have had roles in all 6 films, this film marks the first time that they have directly interacted via telephone. That's wild. It's kind of surprising to me that, if I sit back and think about it, it's like, oh yeah, it's true. But it's like you would have just anticipated that at some point it would have happened. And another kind of surprising fact to me is that this is the first of the film in the series to get a 3D release. That's wild. Again, I'm not big on 3D movies. I don't really go see 3D movies. So I guess that just is a fact that would be lost upon me. But it's wild that you would have thought that, I don't know, at some point before this, that it would have one of them would have got one. But so anyway, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I have a special dislike of 3D movies, just because I worked from the movie theater for a while, and I don't know. It's like 3D movies, they serve nearly no purpose. I mean, the movie, all it is you put these glasses on and things seem a little more realistic. Honestly, I think 3D is an outdated technology, and I think it's kind of stupid that people pay money to go watch 3D movies. No offense if you like 3D movies. Actually, I don't care. Full offense. But I think that if you're gonna watch a movie, I would go for like IMAX 3D because I feel like the technology is a little better. But even then, I think IMAX 3D is even still kind of in that scenario, in that ballpark of it's kind of becoming a little outdated too. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I'm not a fan of 3D. Never have been. Probably never will be. But
my enjoyment of 3D movies ends with back in the cheesy days when it was first kind of really becoming a thing, and they made these really forced attempts to get 3D shots. And I'm looking directly at you, Friday the 13th Part 3.
Yes.
and to me, that plays into that cheesy and that parts that make me chuckle. But yeah, I don't really, I don't even know the last time I went to a theater and saw a 3D movie. I just don't do it. But again, it is kind of surprising though that through 6 installments, this is the first one, but so be it. So, all right, we've issued it. We said it a couple times, but this is your last warning on spoilers because we're not holding anything back here, right? We're diving in. The movie's been out a week, and we're diving in. So if you have not seen it and you do not want to know any of the plot points or anything, now's the time to say adios and be on your merry way and come back to us later.
Now's the time to GTFO.
That's right, because we're diving in. So, like we said, we pre-discussed this movie a little bit, and I got to say, here's my thing. We're at two ends here. Ike really enjoyed the movie. I was really disappointed with the movie. So this is going to spawn some interesting discussions. Now, there are things I do like about the movie, and to me, there's two things they could have switched that would have completely changed the movie in my eyes, and we'll talk about those a little bit. So before we get into some of the flaws that I see in it, let's talk about the positives of it, right? And I'm going to list off a few here. I jump in and stop me anywhere you want to,
Okay.
if you got something to say, and then once I complete my positives, we'll hear some of your positives. But I can say that I overall I enjoyed the opening scene overall because I thought it was kind of clever and it was kind of a fresh approach to it. It did it confounded me, I don't want to say blew my mind a little bit. It wasn't not that extent, but it was wild to me that, after the kill, the guy's walking away and he takes the mask off. And I was like, what the, because it was different. I think that's the part that was different to me. Right. But it does play into another thing that I really enjoyed about the movie is that I loved the new setting and the move to New York City. I thought it was incredible. I thought it gave them a lot of new scenery and angles to work for the kills. And I feel that if they had kept this in Woodsboro, it really would have brought the movie down a whole lot, and it wouldn't have been as strong, and it would have felt really stale. And that plays in this opening scene, the way it parlayed out into the alley and everything. You couldn't have pulled that off anywhere else, right? It had to be in the city. So right off the bat in the opening scene, you're feeling some of that new energy of the city. So what's your take on just the move to the city in the opening and then the opening scene? I mean, I like that part. I love the move to New York. I'm a Jason Takes Manhattan guy though, so something like that's fun to me when you do something like that. I thought that was just a great aspect of this movie that really put a little bit of fresh air into it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I will say it was very much a surprise when the guy took off his mask, because the actor is Tony Revolori, and the guy who he is, his name is Jason Carvey. And Tony Revolori, if you don't know who he is or maybe you're confused, he actually plays Flash Thompson in the new Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, I think he's a great actor. Never seen him in this kind of a role before, so it was very interesting because he's also in Grand Budapest Hotel, which is a completely different movie.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, it was really cool to see him even in a brief stint as a serial killer. It was very interesting to see him go back to his apartment, to his friend, whom supposedly is his accomplice in all of this. They're kind of starting to kill people, and their next step is to kill the Carpenter sisters. So it was really interesting to kind of see that. First and foremost, you see this Ghostface killing, the guy immediately unmasks, which is obviously the most uncharacteristic thing that any Ghostface has ever done, ever. And immediately it throws you off. It immediately sets you into fight or flight. You're immediately like, okay, something's wrong here. And so he gets back to his apartment. and obviously he's killed by the actual Ghostface. And as an intro, you're like, holy shit, that's awesome. And it also kind of, dives in a little bit and deepens the lore. He mentions that he's going to finish what Richie started, and he's going to kill the Carpenter sisters and everything else. So it definitely deepens the lore a little bit to say that there's sort of like a network almost of people who want to complete that. And, who's to say there might not be more or whatever the case may be. But absolutely very interesting, very well done. And like you said, the scenery is beautiful. It's in the city. So cool. Because it honestly, it plays on one of the biggest fears of people who don't live in cities, is that going to a city will get you killed.
Yeah.
And it very much plays on the fact that there's so much happening that it's the same as if nothing is happening. You know what I mean? It's almost the same as being alone with the killer in a big city like that.
Yeah, I definitely like the move to the city. I thought that was a very, very cool thing. I thought Melissa Barrera, who plays Sam Carpenter, was just absolutely amazing. Yeah. I thought she was spectacular in this movie. Her character, I just loved it. I thought the growth of it, the direction they went, keeping the I was caught off surprised that she was still having the visions of her father, Billy Loomis, and that Skeet Ulrich was in it. I didn't know. I didn't know he was going to continue on with this. I loved it. And she really played up the trauma and all the struggles very, very well. I also loved Jasmine Savoy Brown in it, but I'm very biased towards those geeky movie buff type characters. I loved Randy and whatever else. So I thought she did a great job. I don't know. I like those kind of characters. So I thought she did a great job. And then I loved. We're kind of skipping all over the movie here a little bit, but I loved the whole shrine and the obsession over the killers, because I really felt like we discussed what we did our previews of our predictions. It leaned into true crime buffs, and it felt very relevant to me, right? It felt very kind of believable, and I thought that was a very, very cool aspect. And then kind of related to that, I really enjoyed the whole countdown aspect with the masks and how they were leaving the masks and how all the Ghostface killers were getting mentions and talked about. And in that same retrospect, I absolutely, I had to say one of my favorite moments of the movie is when I think it was the Jasmine Savoy Brown character dropped a line about Stu Macher saying, "Well, if you believe he's dead." I had to say I loved, because that's the conversation that everybody has, me included. Every time a Scream movie comes out, Stu's not dead. Stu's going to be the killer, right? That's the conversation that just ignites on the internet every time. And I love that they played into that, right? And they put it out there. I thought that was pretty good. And so, of course, in my mind, I'm hoping that, hey, maybe Stu will finally be back at Scream 7. But, like I said, every Scream movie I predicted. Never happens, but, it is what it is. And then kind of finally, I loved Kirby Reed. I liked that she was back. I thought her character was very great, was very strong. And, that they tried to, imply or tease it, they tried to, or frame almost, I guess, that she was the killer to throw everybody off. And but I liked it. It was great seeing her back in the movie, and I thought she did a great job. I loved the scene, the little scene with her and Jasmine Savoy Brown, where they're talking about their favorite movies and what they like. I liked it, right? I kind of geek out for things like that. And they were great, and and I don't know, Mason Gooding may have, as far as just performance goes, he may have stole the show. He is such a good actor, such a talented actor, and did great. He was great in this movie. And everything else. So those are some of my big positives of the movie that I did like and I did enjoy. I enjoyed the movie for the first almost 2/3 of it. I really did. I thought it was going well, and then, to be frank, they lost me at the end. And some of the choices, some of the choices they made I did not like. And again, I will talk in a bit with, to me, 2 tweaks could have completely changed at the end. Could have completely, I won't say tweaks, because one of them is a major change, but it would have. I would have loved the movie, super loved the movie. But excuse me. But before we dive into some of my negatives and some of those things, were there any other? I know you enjoyed the movies, but I mean just some specific positives that I didn't mention that you liked, or even if I did mention that you just want to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a couple things. I really like the kind of the framing of the Carpenter sisters. I think that Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera are fantastic actresses, and I think Sam Carpenter is shaping up to be Um, I don't want to quite say a better protagonist than Sydney Prescott, but I will say this. She has a little bit more of a relevance, in my opinion, to the current series than Sydney does. Um,
She feels very much like a hybrid of Sydney and Gale to me.
Yeah.
Like she has some of the qualities of both. I don't know. There's some of that there. Again, she did a great job.
No, absolutely. Additionally, even though Neve Campbell wasn't in the movie, I am glad how they wrote her out of it. Simply speaking, she wanted to get her family to safety, which honestly makes sense. It's believable. It is something that Sydney would do. And so I definitely, when that happened, I was like, how are they going to explain this? Are they just not going to talk about Sydney? But they did. They talked about Sydney. They were able to get her out of it in a logical way, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, to me, this is, again, a hot button topic. On a related but a side note, right? The movie Creed 3, I've not seen Creed 3 yet, right? I will see it at some point. But the character Rocky Balboa is not in Creed 3, right? Which, okay, whatever. So so be it. But from what I'm reading, and I haven't seen it, so can't confirm this. There's no mention of him. There is no mention of Rocky at all, or where he is, or why he's not in it, or anything he's done, or any, that he's helped train. And that's awkward to me. So I'm glad in this that they didn't just ignore, right? Didn't not acknowledge that, hey, your fucking major top character through the first 5 movies is not in this thing. It would have been very ignorant to not say something. And again, it was a very, I don't know, very believable, innocent way to do it, right? I mean, hey, it makes sense. It doesn't really close any doors. Doesn't change anything in the grand scheme. It's a very, simple, innocent, believable way of why she's not there. I mean, which one of us, wouldn't have said at this point, fuck it, I'm not doing it again. I'm not going, right? I'm going to worry about my family now, and I'm sorry, but I just can't, right? Yeah. And 5, she wasn't going to come, right? She's like, I have no intention, but it was Dewey that brought her back, and the death of Dewey, right? That's something big that she had to come back, right? So, I mean, she has a connection with some of these characters, yes, but it's not the same. So, yeah, I mean, I'm glad they didn't just ignore it. I was fearful because you don't know, right? You don't know how they're gonna approach this. So I'm glad they didn't just completely ignore it and just pretend it didn't exist.
No, absolutely. And that was something I was definitely worried about, is that they were just going to basically say it didn't matter, is essentially my worry. But I'm glad that they at least addressed it versus, like you said, just being like, oh, no, who's that? But in addition to that, like I said, the Carpenter sisters, I think, were very much fleshed upon in this movie. They explained why the mother wasn't in the picture, which, again, makes perfect sense. Because I was thinking to myself, we've never seen their mother, not in the last movie, not in this movie, which makes me think that maybe she'll be relevant in the next movie.
Yeah, maybe.
Additionally, I think that the ensemble that they brought together, the characters that they brought together, all of them were very well acted. I don't think any of them had any major issues. The detective, honestly, in my opinion, he deserves. I think he deserves some good credit for this movie because he did a really good job, and I'm sure that I think that's part of what you're probably going to say you didn't like. But I like the actor. I think that he did a pretty good job in his role, and the character he played was very interesting, and he played it in a way that was like, in retrospect, it was a cheese fest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
His name's Dermot Mulroney.
Yeah, and again, 2/3 of the movie, I agree with you, but yeah, okay.
But outside of that, I liked it. I liked the story. I liked how they basically transitioned to New York. I like how they transitioned, how they're dealing with things. I like how they transitioned sort of the suspicions and, Sam's, for lack of a better phrase, her mental health issues. They still very much are present. They didn't just magically disappear because she's suddenly not in danger. No, they're very much still there. She's very much still struggling. She's very much still having problems. And in the psychiatrist scene where she tells him it felt right, and he's like, I'm not equipped to handle this. I'm not equipped. Yeah. I thought that was hilarious.
I've got to report this. Yeah.
But yeah. So anyways, I liked it a lot. I liked a lot of those framings and the storyline and everything else. But I'm very curious because now I feel like it's time to talk about what you would have tweaked to change to make the movie better.
Yeah. Yep. Let's talk. Well, before we dive in, do you have any negatives that you want to discuss at all, or are the negatives in your mind minuscule enough that you don't want to deep dive into any of them?
So I think the only major negative was again that Stu Macher wasn't in the movie, but I guess that's not even necessarily
Yeah.
negative because, like you said, we built it
That's
up in our heads and we were like, oh, convinced that this is here. Although I do have a theory for Scream 7, which I'll talk about here in a minute.
we're
Um,
already doing it. Yeah, that's
I'm
good.
already here. I
Me
already
too.
have a theory. But no,
Which
nothing major that I would say I have to be like, oh yeah, let's like this. I need to talk about.
Yeah, which by the way, my theory on this movie was completely off. It didn't have any. No, it was. I didn't
Oh
have
yeah.
anything right. But
I
anyway,
think we both swing and missed on pretty much any
yeah,
theory that we provided.
some wishful thinking. But
Yes.
so let's take these one by one of my negatives. What my problems with the movies. Again, I know with horror movies especially, there are some leaps of faith, right? There are going to be some plot holes that you just have to say, you just have to look the other way, right? It's hard not. I felt like this one, in my eyes and in my brain, there was too many loose ends in my brain. Some things I didn't like here, though. And this one, the first one here that I'm going to talk about, is a simple fix because to me, they just didn't have to include this aspect of it. I didn't like what they did with the Gale Weathers character at first. I didn't like that they took a character that she had grown so much and had she had gone from this self-centered, greedy person to falling in love, to really becoming invested, to getting to the point where she was doing the right thing because it was the right thing. I didn't like that they totally took her back to, oh, I wrote a book on this and cashed in. I that felt very cheap to me. It felt weird, and I think they could have just left that out. I don't think we needed that tension, and that it didn't play a big enough part in the movie overall that I don't think it was needed. I mean, it got to the point where it's like she got slapped, and they're like, okay, well, we just need to figure this out and get okay, whatever. I felt like they could have left it out. You know, you could say you could, or if you needed a little tension, you could have just played up the okay. She took this job as a newscaster. She tried to move on and find a new boyfriend after Dewey, and they could have maybe people could have taken it as well. Why are you just forgetting and ignoring and you know in her mind it wasn't forgetting and annoying. It was just I'm trying to move on, right? I'm trying to put things back together and whatever else. Now she did a good job acting, right? In the parts where she saw the Dewey stuff in the shrine and you could see it on her face, the pain, right? And all that. I just don't feel like she wrote another book to cash in and everybody was not speaking. I didn't feel like they had to go back to that. I felt like that was I felt like it was unneeded.
So,
But
go
okay.
ahead.
Well, I will say it will come back in a bit though when I talk about something if they would have went this route. But I just felt like with the movie they made, I felt like you could have left that little bit out.
See, so I obviously I don't necessarily disagree, but my thought process on why it was included in the movie is that th- not in the way it's going to sound, but this is who Gail is without Dewey. You know, Gail is still acclimating to life without Dewey, and the first thing that she did is she went back to what's safe for her. She went back to being the person she was from the first movie because that's a safe space
Yeah.
for her, you know.
Well, and I get that, but to me that I don't know that diminishes. I don't know. To me, in my mind, it diminishes what she had with Dewey and what she should have learned from Dewey and with her relationship with Dewey. That she should have become a better person because of Dewey, and that
Yeah.
because Dewey was such a great guy, right? They brought that up in the last movie, the fifth one. You know hey, my sister wouldn't be alive if it was for Dewey, and she's like, yeah, he does that, doesn't he? Right? That Dewey was always help first, worry about me later, and I just felt like it diminished that what it should have been in what I would have wanted, I guess, what Gail could have taken from Dewey, right? Of carrying on that, hey, I'm a better person because of Dewey Riley. And again, it's not a huge thing. It's not like this killed the movie for me, but I
Right.
just didn't. I didn't. I felt like Gail had become such an interesting character and grown so much that I just felt like they just lost ground real quick, and it felt I don't know. It didn't feel sit right with me. But again,
Fair.
it's not my most major problem with it.
Right.
Um,
I think I know what your most major problem is, but go ahead.
we'll get there. Um, I felt like here. Okay, one of my biggest problems with this movie is there were no fucking major kills. There was no major character that died in this movie.
Yeah.
That every character that died was a new character, or there. So I know that everybody loves these characters, but someone should have died. One of the core four or somebody should have died. It's unfortunate. I don't know. Someone needed to die because everyone there's an impactful kill, right? And you're coming off a movie where you killed Dewey, so someone's got to die, and they did not have a major kill in this movie. Part B of that. How the fuck did Mason Gooding's character survive?
Yeah.
The motherfucker got stabbed like 50 million times in the abdomen, and it survives. Again, I know there's a leap of faith. I get it. I've watched some crazy shit in movies, and I get it. Come on. I think it was a bit. If it had just been a stab or two, okay. He got brutalized, and I just felt like it was a bit much. I also feel that Tara, Jenna Ortega's, that she took a little much in the theater there in the end to survive so easily. I'm not saying she should have died or not, but I just felt like there was maybe you should have cut back a little if you wanted what the ending they had. Cut back a little on what she took. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For a brief moment, just briefly, and I guess in my heart of hearts, I probably didn't believe it. When she was hanging off, holding onto her sisters, and she was saying, "Let me go," I thought they're going to kill her. They're going to kill her right here and put all the focus on Sam for the 7th. And I thought, that's great, right? Don't get me wrong. I love Jenna Ortega. But I thought, God, do you know how much that would have pushed the character of Sam Carpenter to the next level if her sister died because of this? I mean, if she had trauma and issues before, and I truly didn't believe it was going to happen. But for a brief moment there, I thought they were going to pull the trigger. But that was one of my two biggest issues is that there was not a major kill in this.
Yeah.
And I mean, let's double down on this in my book. If you look in this movie, there were 5 killers in this movie total, right? There were the 3 in the final and the 2 that they were a part of it at the beginning that they killed off pretty quick. So 5 people that were supposedly killers in the movie, even though we necessarily didn't see all 5 of them kill. The one guy, the roommate, we didn't see him kill anybody. Or actually, I guess he hadn't killed anybody yet, right?
Right.
Because the one guy said how it felt. He was telling me how it felt. So he hadn't killed anybody yet. So we'll just say 4 killers, right, in this movie. And how many kills were there? Like 5, 6, maybe?
Something like, well,
Man,
I'm trying to remember.
Well, there's the teacher.
Yeah.
And the who else?
There's a few people in that bodega.
Yeah, the girlfriend of the Jasmine Savoy. I don't know the characters now. I can't remember the Jasmine Savoy. Her girlfriend that fell off the ladder. And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I'm forgetting a few, but I just felt like the killer to killed ratio was not where it should have been per se. I don't know, and I know you can't kill me, but whatever. I just feel like at least one pretty major character should have been killed off. I feel like we're at that point of the franchise, and you've got enough major characters, and I don't know. I thought it was going to be the Mason Gooding. I really did not suspect he was going to survive that, and I thought his character was really strong there because he gave himself to get the Carpenter sisters out of there, right? He told them to run, and while he was there taking them, right, taking it to distract them long enough, and and I don't know. I guess for a brief moment I thought they were going to kill Gail, but they went off real quick with, oh, she's got a slight pulse. I'm like, oh, she's surviving, and I don't know. And I'm not saying one of those two should have been. I just felt like someone.
Yeah.
I just felt like you needed one. I don't know. I feel like you're deep enough into this that it had to be one major kill, not just someone that you established, right, or you just put in this movie. I don't know. I mean, do you disagree with that point? I mean, I love the characters. I love the actors. I get it. But come on. I mean, something impactful. There weren't kills that made me say, holy fuck, oh my God, they killed. None of that happened to me, right? There was nobody that I was like, had any kind of shock value to me that they got killed. And,
Right.
and Scream always has that to me. There's always someone. The fucking first movie, you kill Drew Barrymore in the opening scene. It blows your mind. And there's always somebody that's pretty important, for the most part, right? I mean, and to be frank, the movies that I like the least don't have that as much, right? I don't like Scream 4 that much. But, I mean, are there impactful kills in that movie? I don't know. To be the best ones, it has that.
Right. I do agree. I think that they did. I feel like they definitely screwed the pooch in terms of like who should have died. I could see Jenna Ortega's character dying. I could see Gail Weathers dying. I could see Mason Gooding's character dying. And I do agree. I feel like this movie did lack that like emotional depth to kill off a main character to basically give you that basically that satisfaction, that weird satisfaction you get from seeing like a main character dying. But I will say this. I think truthfully that the reason that all these people survived is because what happens in the next movie, I genuinely believe this next movie is going to be like kind of like a finale, if you will. It's supposed to be sort of like a cap on the three, like the Carpenter sisters. So I think that the only reason why they kept these people alive in this movie is to kill them in the next one, genuinely.
Perhaps,
Yeah.
right? Perhaps, and I do have I got hopes, right? Yeah, okay, that they'll everything I had problem with, they write it in the next. I get that. I still feel like I don't know. I feel like you could have
Like
still pulled
one
something
person.
off. But one has got to die. But I will tell you this. Here in a minute, I have not a theory, but I have I don't know, an alternate what I would have done here.
Mhm.
That could have given you that would have given it a lead into the next movie that would have been wild. Well, I'll discuss that in a minute. Again, it's just fan fiction type off my brain shit that I'll get to in a minute. Another little problem I had that just felt kind of messy to me is the whole bit with in retrospect, the cop faking his daughter's death and switching the bodies and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I don't know. That is a little shallow to me. I didn't. I mean, I don't know. How the fuck did he bring a body? I know. Okay, did he stash it? I don't know. That was a little lame to me. But again, whatever. I mean, that's not didn't sink the whole movie for me. But we will come to. I have a few thoughts and a few things on probably the biggest point. I didn't like the killers. Didn't
Really?
like the killers. No, did not. I didn't like for multiple reasons here. Number one, I just felt like it had been done before, right? In part two, you had Billy's mom. So I don't know. I wasn't hip on another parent of a killer, even if it's a different approach at all. I get it. And again, not that I disliked the Richie character so much, because it was all right. It was fine in 5. I didn't like him enough that I needed to see him that key in another movie. So I don't know. I didn't, and he's got. I just didn't. It didn't give me any shocking moment when it was unveiled, right? That it was him, I was like, okay. And I'm like, that's not. And then when I saw it was him, I'm like, well, I knew who the other two were, right? I knew. I'm like, okay, it's gonna be the geeky kid. And I thought, and when he was him, I was like, it's the fucking roommate. I knew. I mean, it's like I just knew after the detective. I didn't like it. I thought it fell flat to me. The story, it's okay or whatever, but I just didn't. I don't. Maybe again, a lot of it might be because they pulled off the parent of the first killer, and so it's just a little too much of the same.
Right.
I didn't like that, and I don't know. It fell flat in my mind, which all this is leading me to. I mean, do you want to comment on that at all? I mean, I understand you like the movie, so you were probably fine with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It fell flat to me.
Right. I think that it was okay. So I mean, I guess my opinion of it leads into like a broader scope because they're basically what they're doing is they're repeating the formula of the first 3 movies. You know what I mean?
Don't like that. I don't like that.
But I
don't
think
like that they're following it so closely.
Right, but I think that they're doing it for the purpose of a huge payout, because I think that they're trying to make you think that all of these killers are just going to be like these just random people, because the killers in 5, they were kind of random. They were just like internet trolls, right? But they were two people. They idolized Stu and Billy. They idolized the stab movies. They idolize these people. And then you have this movie, which is a family affair. That's kind of the point of the movie, right? It's supposed to be about, Richie was a good boy. He didn't deserve to die, blah, blah, and all that bullshit. So, it is what it is. But I think that it's leading to a bigger payout because I think that the idea is that if they're going to follow the same formula for Scream 7, they're going to follow Scream 3. And the formula of Scream 3 is that it's a single killer and it's somebody who has great importance to the series. And I think it's going to be Stu. But anyways, yeah, I agree. I think that to an extent, the killers, it did fizzle a bit for me just because it did become very predictable very quickly. As soon as they really, they're like, it's the cop, and I'm like, okay, well, why would the cop care? And then I'm thinking, well, he's probably got to connect back to the last movie. I'm sure there's some bullshit connection. So I will say it did fizzle a bit for me. Not enough for me not to enjoy it, but I can definitely see where you're coming from for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and, if they have a good payout, I hope, right? Great, but I don't feel like you give up your current movie to set the stage that much. But I will tell you, here's my thing. Here's where I would have gone with this. So we're getting to some of my fan fiction here, and this spins out of one thing that kind of bugged me too. It just straight out of the movies bugged me. Is I'm sitting here thinking, right? I didn't like what they did with Gail. She wrote a book about the last killings, writing about Richie and all that, and whatever else. I mean, we don't specifically know what the book was about, so perhaps maybe the approach is different. But all I keep saying is, how did she write a book about that experience? Did she not interview people and get other things? How the fuck did she not know Richie's family at all? How does she not? Did she not talk to anybody even remotely related to them? And maybe she did, right? Maybe she wrote a book just purely about herself. I guess that's what we're to believe. But to me, it just doesn't. The original, she wrote one about the Woodsboro killings, right, and everything. You just would have thought that she's a journalist that she's trying to get back to this writing prominence, that she would have went out and looked for some family of Richie to say, did you ever see signs? Were there ever any signs that Richie could have done this? And blah, blah, blah. And even if you don't, okay, first of all, if the father is not there and you don't see the father or can't find the father, would that not be in your mind? You're like, okay, what the fuck? Where's the father? But if you're talking to somebody, would there not have been a picture anywhere of the sibling? I don't know. It felt weird to me. I mean, I don't know. I guess without knowing what the book was about, I guess you could just dismiss it. It felt off to me again, which could have been solved if they hadn't fucking done the book thing to begin with. it wouldn't have been there. But it leads me to what I would have fucking done. And I feel like they didn't have the balls to do it. I'm telling you flat out, 100%, as I sit and watch this movie, without a shadow of a doubt, in this movie, Gail should have been the killer. She should have been, at least had a hand in it. She should. And what I would have done is I would have done something they have never, ever done in a Scream movie. At the end of the movie, Gail would have had accomplices, of course, right? At the end of the movie, she would have unmasked, and we would have seen that, holy fuck, it's Gail. But nobody in the movie would have seen it, would have known, and we would have carried over into 7 without them knowing that Gail was a part of this. Right. Or that she would. So we have never had that carryover of fucking the killer is still there, or the mastermind, or whatever. I'm not even saying Gail would have necessarily herself killed anybody, but she would have been the puppeteer that she has gained riches and fame and everything else based on these killings. And she had fought and had something else to fill in her life, which she had Dewey. But when Dewey was gone, she fell off the rails and said, and just wanted to be, fuck this, I'm jumping in. And then what I would have done in the next step, in part 7, is if I was that company, I would have got on my knees and begged and apologized and pleaded and thrown every dollar I had to get Nev Campbell back, so that in part 7, it would have come down to Gail versus Sidney. And in the big blow off battle, because these two started off as enemies. They worked through it and became close and friends and went through all this stuff. Partially, a big part because of Dewey, right? Because of Dewey's play in this. When Dewey's gone and fucking things get off of it, and imagine the shock that Sidney would have seen when oh, it's another ghost face, right? It's another person, and holy fuck, it's Gale, right? I mean, it would have put a new level. You thought the guy, her boyfriend, was a big impact. Imagine that this is this person that has been such an important part of her life. And I don't know. I think they missed the. If you're going to have Gale live, I just felt like, I don't know. I felt like it could have been bigger. I felt like you could have pulled the strings on this one. And I don't know. And again, I'm not saying this is the right direction or the wrong direction or whatever, but it would have, something like this would have saved the movie for me, right? The first
Right.
2/3 of the movie, it was all right. It was having fun. You get to the point where you start revealing stuff and whatever else. I'm like, I don't know. It fell apart for me. If it had something bigger, and again, I think it would have been clever to have, whether it was Gale or something else, have it carry over a little bit, right? Because they've never done that, right? At the end, the killer's always dead, right? They always get that second coming headshot in, and it's done. And then it's somebody else next one. It's somebody else related. And I get that's part of the Scream thing and part of the formula. But hey, we're deep enough in this. Let's try something just a touch different. And let's have at least what they could have killed the accomplices or whatever and felt that they had some closure. But
Right.
but someone, a mastermind, someone's behind. They did that whole aspect at the end of the movie where Sam held the mask, and I guess for a moment it made you want to think, oh, is she gonna go? Is she gonna go? Dark side on this, and then she dropped the mask and blah blah blah. That's all it had to be, was something at the end where you just some kind of reveal just to us viewers that it was Gale or it was somebody, or or if it's Stu. If you're gonna bring back, if that's the plan and you've already got that hooked in and ready to go, I know you don't want to give it. I don't know. I just felt like, okay, maybe not the Stu because you're giving away the whole boat, but give us that tease that it's Gale's got a part in this. She's pulling some strings, and you still could have brought Stu back in the 7th, right?
Okay.
That Gale's pulling his strings and he's a part of it with her, whatever else. And I don't know. That's my fan fiction writing. I know it's not necessarily possible. I'm not a screenwriter. I'm not in the production company, so maybe it's not feasible. I just felt they needed more impact. If we're 6 movies in and we don't have Nev Campbell in this one, they needed something impactful, and then to not have any major kills, and to kind of the killer reveal to fall flat for me and not shocking at all to me. Really, it wasn't that big a deal. I felt like they didn't have the impact they needed late in this movie to really put this over the top as one of the best in the franchise.
Right. No, and here's the deal. I would agree. I think that if they had basically given a stronger connection, basically something to lead into the next movie, I think that this would have been an even better movie in my opinion. Because I liked the movie. I liked it a lot. I really liked it. Loved it, I would even say. But I do feel like there was a few aspects missing that we got in the other movies. But I think the Gale aspect would have definitely been interesting, a little, at the very least, entertaining. And like you said, it could have very easily led into another Scream movie where you still can have Stu and you can still have that impact, but you're doing it with a lead in basically. You have your nose going into it already. But yeah, absolutely. I do see where you're coming from. I could definitely see why somebody wouldn't like this movie for sure.
Yeah, I mean, even if somebody really liked the movie, I mean, I don't think that would have ruined it for them. I think they just would have liked it even more.
Right.
And I know there's a lot of people who love Gale, and I get that. But I mean, it's okay. God, it's still, I don't know. I mean, but tell me that if they couldn't have pulled it off, tell me some kind of big showdown between Gale and Sydney would not have been the biggest thing in this franchise in all what would have been at that point 7 movies. It would have been huge because you would have had 2 characters that pretty much were in virtually every movie, in Gale's case, in every movie, that were like the cornerstones of this franchise. And if you could have pulled it off I mean, it's freaking pro wrestling booking 101, right? You've got the 2 friends who are on shaky terms and everything seems okay, but then there's something that causes the rift, and then they're, and bam, then they're in a match together. It's the same concept, right? It would have been huge, but again, like I said, I'm not a screenwriter, and perhaps, all I can say is this: in my heart, do I hope there's a big Part 7 payoff, and that they're going to right the ship, and this is this is just a bridge to get there. I hope. But when they, to me, when there's some flaws like this in my eyes, it makes me leery of, okay, are they going to pull it off in the next movie, or are they just going to follow the formula because, oh hey, we made a lot of money and it's successful, and I don't know. It makes me worried about that. Now I love the franchise. I'm still going to be hyped up when Part 7 comes up, and I'll be just excited as I was for 6, and everything else. And I'm going to be frank. I really want to go see this again in the theaters because, hey, like I said, 2/3 of the movie, I was enjoying it, and it had parts I liked. And if they had just had more impact on the back end of this movie and a little bit better, I don't know, a little more shock. I think Scream needs some shock to it, right? And
Right.
I feel like it lacked that because not only did the killer thing fall flat in my eyes, but there was not a major character killed. So I felt like there was no shock. It didn't have that prototypical shock that you come to expect. And I felt like if they just had some of that, it would have made it more passable for me. But it's hard to remember the parts I enjoyed and the portion of the movie I enjoyed because of that. And I know a lot of people, and again, it's the Halloween Ends thing again, right? I know a lot of people loved it, and I know there are people that don't like it too. I'm not saying I hate the movie. We joke. I don't hate Halloween Ends, right? I just don't. We joke about it, and I know you and we say shit on here. We don't hate Halloween Ends. It's not that because I will be honest. Saying these things about this movie hurt me, and I know that sounds ridiculous. I am such a fanboy for this franchise that it hurts me, right? Because I don't. But I'm trying to take that part aside and give, my honest feelings, right? Because I'm such a fanboy of this stuff that my initial reaction is, I don't care. It's Scream. It's Ghostface on the screen. Oh, it's great. But so I'm trying to really be analytical about it and look at it that way. And again though, I'm not, I don't want, the whole event of this, I was excited to go to the movies. That doesn't change. This didn't change any of that. It was fun to go to the movies and the event, and the people were, reacting in the crowd somewhat to certain things and things like that. That was still, I loved it, right? And it was still exciting to see a horror movie, being successful and having this. I just felt a little let down by the later parts of this movie, and I don't know why I know they were following the Scream formula. I felt like they missed the boat on some of the heart of it by not having some shock factor, because I feel like every Scream movie has something, right? And yes, sometimes it doesn't work as well as others, but I didn't feel like this was I don't know. I don't feel like it had that. I just don't feel like it had the shock that it needed. And I don't know, if you killed off a major character, it would have eased a little of the pain, because that would have been a little bit shocking. But I don't know. So, but it is what it is.
Right. To tell them to rewrite it. Just start killing people. Say rewrite, or I'll keep killing people.
Yeah, I'm gonna start an online petition that they need to pull the movie and rewrite the end, and let's scrub it.
Scrub it all.
Yeah. No. We won't do that. I am hopeful that that come Part 7, we will right the ship.
Yeah.
I feel like what they need for Part 7, honest to God, what they need to get Kevin Williamson back into more directly writing this thing.
Yeah.
And have a little more involved in it, because at least from this guy, and from me, my perspective, the biggest hits are the ones that Kevin Williamson directly wrote and had a more involved hand in.
Right.
When it's just him giving ideas or coming up with some, those are the ones to me that miss a little. And I'm a fan of Kevin Williamson and his work. He has made Scream what it is. He's the guy that created this, and and maybe he will. I don't know. And I don't know what their plans are. I don't know if they hope with 7 to wrap it down for a little bit, my gut says they're being as successful. They're going to try to find a way to move on to the next chapter, and that's okay. Let's just do it right, and let's just do it creatively. And I'm not one of those fanboys that says, oh, it has to be this and that and blah blah, it has to be perfect, or it has to be my way or the highway. I'm just saying, let's don't forget what made you successful, right?
Right.
I know there's formulas, but again, I go back to the word shock, because that's the biggest thing with Scream, is the surprise, the shock. You spend the whole movie waiting for that killer to be unmasked and to try to guess who it is. And you're either ecstatic because, oh, I got it right. I guessed it. I figured it out. Or they throw you a curveball and you're like, oh, wow, that's wild. And it's hard because you have to take into context. I know that's a thing, right? There's a formula for that now. Like the first one, that didn't exist.
Right.
And when you're watching the first one back then in the mid 90s, Billy Loomis, when they arrested him and they cleared him, to a viewer at that point, you kind of, most of us forget him, right? They're like, okay, well, they cleared him. If it's not him, so who can it be? And so then it was kind of shocking when, oh, it is him, and you find out the reasoning. And I just don't feel like they had the balls to really put their foot down and do something like that again. And I don't know. I'm still a big fan of the Scream franchise. Don't get me wrong. And I know I have rambled an awful fucking lot about this, but and I'm not saying my fix is the right fix. I just felt like there needed to be a fix. It needed to be a little different.
Right.
And as much as I like certain parts, I felt very disappointed, and it's hard to think of that because of the finish for me. And I'm just being honest, and that's okay, because goddamn, when you have a franchise that goes 6, 7 plus movies or whatever, not all of them are going to be your favorites. Not all of them are going to be hits. It's going to happen, right? It's going to happen, and that doesn't make me less of a fan of the franchise as a whole. It's just when if I go to pick one out and rewatch it, maybe it won't be that one. That's okay. But and I know some people may love it. That's fine. That's okay, right? Everybody's entitled to their own opinions, their own takes, and I do hope nobody takes offense at that. And I hope you don't take offense at that because you enjoyed the movie. Because if I have, that doesn't mean anything, right? That's my view, my take. If somebody seems to have a common interest and agreement with me, then maybe they'll take, put some weight in my words. But maybe not, and that's okay, right? Because again, at the end of the day, it's all opinions and taste, and everybody's entitled to their own. So
I just want you to know, Dave, that I am deeply offended by your thoughts today, so I will be canceling you later on social media.
Go right ahead. Good luck with that. But so now we've got the task of rating, and this is where the discrepancy is going to really going to show itself. I'll go first. I don't think it's going to be any surprise, but I'm giving this thing a 2.5 out of 5. I just don't feel it was. It hurt me. It hurt me, man. You cut me deep, man. And
I'm feeling woozy here.
Yeah, and it brought it down. I will say I have discussed this movie so much with Monica.
Yeah.
And we have had talks, and I have been all over the board with my rating on this because, again, coming out of the gate, the fanboy Dave's like, I want to give this a 4 because I'm a fanboy and I love Scream, and then it's like I had to talk myself down and calm down, and she's helped me with that. And so my honest rating, I'm giving it a 2.5 out of 5. So, Ike, what are you giving it?
Yeah, like you said, honestly, I'll be honest. When I watched this movie coming right out of the gate, I was like, man, this is such a good movie. Yeah, it's the best one. Yeah, I love it. Oh, yeah. And like you said, I talked to my wife, Kayla. I talked to her a little bit about the movie, kind of got a deeper sense of the movie, and I didn't obviously rate it a 2.5, but I did say to myself, I like this movie. This movie was a lot of fun to me. I enjoyed it, and there's nothing so egregious about the movie that I was like, yeah, this is the fucking worst. But I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. That would be my official rating for this Scream.
Okay.
Numero 6.
Yeah, we had very much discussed.
Siete, sorry.
We had discussed that, hey, if we watch a movie like this on the same night, maybe we should record something right after and get that immediate reaction, right. Whether it be spoiler free or not. and now I feel pretty comfortable in the fact that we pause and wait, because I think I don't know. I mean, again, if we were saying something without spoilers, I don't know, maybe it'd be okay. But to me, a movie, especially of this magnitude in our minds, I think it takes a few days to settle in and reflection on it to really get the proper feel for it. Because you come out of the movie and again, it's fun, you're excited, it's an event, you've gone out, you've had your snacks and blah blah blah, and you're on a rush. So I don't know, it would be probably a little overinflated. So, but I feel comfortable that next episode we'll probably get more back in line a little. Because next episode we're going to watch 2023, the new take on Children of the Corn that's coming out on streaming. I feel like you and I are going to be a little more in sync with this one.
Have you seen that meme that's like, look what they did to my boy?
Yeah.
That's how I'm about to feel about this movie.
I'm going into it with an open mind, right? I'm going to be like, I'm going to try to watch it for what it is. But I will say this. I love the first one. I love the original. Yeah. It's great. It's iconic. I don't felt like they needed to try to. I know they're saying it's not a direct remake. Whatever. If you want to put a new chapter in it and whatever else, so be it. And again, maybe this is. Maybe I don't know yet. But
maybe we'll like it.
We'll
You're like, I don't know. I'm not gonna go that far.
No. Again, I'm trying not to predetermine, but hey, this thing did not get a huge theatrical release, which makes me. It's a Stephen King. I don't know. I just don't. But open mind here, right? Open mind, open heart. We'll see. We're gonna try it, right? And again, I'm gonna do like I did with Scream. I'm trying not to be predetermined. I'm trying to, good or bad. I'm gonna try to go into it and let it stand for what it is, and we'll discuss that next week. Again, Children of the Corn is what we're going to talk about next episode. So we've gone long on this, but I'm not surprised with being a Scream 6. Anything you want to say before we close and get out of here?
Oh man, honestly, go watch Scream. Go watch the movie. Take your own take on it. Think about it. Digest it. And let us know what you think, because I'm very curious. This movie has gotten a lot of back and forth, not even just from you and I. I mean, I've seen a lot of different aspects of the fan base incredibly divided over this movie. So I'm very curious to see what our fans, the five of them that exist. I'm curious what you guys think. Honestly, I'm very curious to think, did you guys like this movie? Did you guys like this better than the last movie? That was another big, talking point is, how did this compare to the last one? So yeah, I'm very curious to see what everybody thought.
Yeah, I'm very much of the mindset. And it's hard, right? It's hard for me to think this way or try to be this way. You don't have to, if you love a franchise or you love a character, you don't have to love everything they've done with it or everything that's out there. That's hard for me to do because my immediate reaction is no matter what it is, I want to defend it and I want to fight for it and I want to try to dig and find the good. So it is hard for me because if there's something I like or love or am passionate about, my immediate reaction is you know what, gloves off. I'm going to fight for this thing, and no matter what. But in the course of having a podcast and trying to give an honest review, I have to fight those instincts. So, but definitely go. No, regardless of it, whether you love it or you hate it or whatever else, go see it. Right? Yeah. It's a big horror movie. It's in the theaters. Let's support horror. Right? Just support it so that we get more, and that the production companies in the theaters know that it's out there. And we got to start working now. I'm not a big guy to watch these things, but we got to start working on the award shows now, right? Let's start getting them to, I know Jamie Lee won, and that's exciting, but she didn't win for a horror
movie. No, yeah.
But
still exciting.
She did acknowledge horror fans in it, right? By thanking genre film fans that supported her entire career. So hey, there's that. So, but anyway, so. All right, we're closing the door on Scream. And again, next week, we're going to talk the new take on Children of the Corn. Make sure you subscribe to us, follow us on social media. And until next episode, wherever you go and whatever you do, be good, be safe, and have many pleasant nightmares.